Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Trial by
Hi,
Pilot. This is the show where we judge an entire series of television and the work of hundreds on one episode. I'm Bill Lynch,
I'm Elizabeth Lynch.
And I'm Casey Lynch.
and we have our first viewer. Who are you? Identify yourself.
Speak.
If you haven't tuned into the podcast before, first of all, you should go on to Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Trial by Pilot. Leave us a review if you feel so inclined. But basically, what we do is we watch the pilot of a TV series, just the first episode, and we judge it based on that. That episode alone.
If you want uninformed opinions, this is the place to come.
Exactly.
We can't. About 1/10 of a TV show.
1/10. We can't bother. We can't bother to watch more than 22 to 44 minutes of a show, so you're not going to get more than that. But basically, the idea is there's so many TV pilots. Casey, how many were there last year? 500?
Yes, something insane.
500 new scripted TV shows?
Yeah.
How do you possibly comb through all that? You can't. So the pilot is really supposed to grab you, right? The pilot's supposed to be the thing that pulls you in. Well, that's what we're judging them on. Mm-hmm. We have a comment from Michael, first time listening. Thanks, Michael. So we are talking about Battlestar Galactica tonight. And we're not talking about the 1978 series. I don't know if you guys saw any still images from that. It looked like a 1970s sci-fi show. I think it only lasted one season. And afterwards, they turned it into a comic book and a board game and like a bunch of pop culture things. And then in 2004, actually in 2003, they did a 3-hour, 2-part miniseries on Sci-Fi, which is why Elizabeth and I, at least, were kind of like thrown into the pilot.
Yeah. Right. We hadn't seen the miniseries.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of it.
I'd be interested if any of the viewers right now have any thoughts on this. I tried to do a little bit of research on it. So a lot of people said the miniseries is really good, and obviously it was because it got picked up as a show. Some people said it was pretty slow moving, like very methodically introducing the characters slowly. Yeah. So a lot of people said you can go back and watch it later, but the first episode just kind of like throws you in, assuming some things, but trying to like catch you up along the way. So I felt a little bit of that during the pilot, but for the most part, I was picking up what was happening.
Yeah, I could tell there were a few things I just assumed like I wasn't paying good enough attention, because I looked on like all the Battlestar Galactica things because I knew there were older ones, and there's like 20 different iterations. So I was like, okay, it's got to be either like the earlier one or like the bigger one. Which one are we doing?
Yeah.
But so I just, I wasn't sure if I was missing something or if I just was like, did I miss one thing and now I'm a little bit confused.
Well, that's how I always feel watching sci-fi, that there's something that I've missed.
I thought about it halfway through. I'm like, oh man, Liz must be feeling this if I
am. Well, especially in the beginning, like there's just, I mean, a show has to introduce the characters in some way.
Yeah.
There's no like real rule about how you introduce the characters, but it does feel like you're thrown in a little bit. But I kind of felt like they did a pretty good job of getting you up to speed, because I felt like halfway through, I understood what was going on. I understood who was who. There's obviously stuff that's going on that we don't know, but I don't necessarily feel that I need to watch the miniseries to continue watching the show.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt that way too. I mean, we don't want to get into this yet. But John Iron says hello. What's up, John?
Hello.
Thanks for tuning in. Just listen to the rest of the Cosmic Potato guys on the opening ceremonies of the At Home Con. So I think the first part of tonight's live stream will be us doing an episode of Trial by Pilot. We're going to talk about the plot of the show, our thoughts. And then afterwards, if you guys are still hanging around watching, I'd like to get some of your thoughts and questions. And we're going to talk kind of about the science fiction genre in general. I feel like this is the right audience for that.
Bunch of nerds.
And if you guys see behind me, I've got the command center on a loop on YouTube.
Very nice.
I was trying to think of what I could put up there.
The effort that you went through to get that set up.
Hey man, we've got 8 viewers right now.
I'm on board with that. That's quite the setup.
I didn't have enough time to like do anything. Oh, someone says the miniseries is optional.
Okay.
I wanted to put up like the Trial by Pilot logo or something cool, and then I was trying to find like something with Battlestar Galactica playing, but then there was just this on loop with like ambient noises, like beep boop beep pop.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So I opted for that.
If the rest of our downstairs wasn't so messy, I'd walk through and let the viewers see how you're sitting and set up, but it's too messy for me to do that.
Pretty legit. Oh, John, you're showing up as Facebook user, but thank you. John says miniseries is optional. All right, so let's talk about the pilot to Battlestar Galactica. We do get a little previously on kind of thing that catches us up very quickly. What happened during the miniseries? We find out that these cybernetic Cylons attacked their homeworld, which is either Earth or like a series of planets, and humanity is at war with them. There is this guy, Gaius, and a blonde woman in a red dress that are constantly talking, and she's saying, "You have no idea who a Cylon could be. There could be sleeper cells where they don't even know they're Cylons yet, and they'll activate later on." And so we're dropped right into the middle of this.
Did I miss this?
This was
the very beginning.
This was the previously on.
Okay.
Oh, that was the previously on?
Yeah. Was it like a
okay.
previously on, or was it just kind of like?
Because
I definitely didn't hear the word previously on.
I don't think there was a voiceover that said previously on.
Okay. I mean, I caught up and I got all of that, but I was like.
So we just get dropped right into this series of ships with all the humans on them, and they're preparing to jump into FTL, faster than light speed, because the Cylons show up every 33 minutes, right on time, exactly at 33 minutes. Cylons show up somewhere in space close to their ships, and they start attacking. And so we see that happen. Thousands of ships just start pouring out of this giant Cylon mothership, and they start streaming towards the humans. And at the right moment, they fix the FTL drive, and they jump into hyperspace, and they appear in space again. There's no Cylon ships, and they're like, reset the clocks. And you just see like a series of people resetting the clocks to 33 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question.
You go ahead.
Sorry, Case. I just want to know, where are they jumping to?
Somewhere else in space. I think at this point, they are just randomly skirting around space, trying to avoid the Cylons because they can't get away from them.
But their whole fleet is able to jump all at once together?
Yes. Well, mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would have coordinates. So they're setting certain coordinates that they're telling all the fleet to go to, and then they all jump at the same time. And theoretically, they all show up at the same time.
All right.
So now we see this rather eccentric guy, Gaius, and he's always with this woman in the red dress, but no one else can see her. So it's like a figment of his imagination, or something was implanted in his head. We don't know this early on, or maybe we do if we watch the miniseries. But he's constantly like dreaming these conversations between the two of them. They're constantly getting hot and heavy, if you know what I'm saying. And
no, what do you mean?
I don't know. Can you explain that further? What do you mean by that?
It's a little bit of that. This is going up on our YouTube, so I don't want to actually do anything really lewd.
Okay.
That's smart. Oh yeah, do we have to like watch what we say now?
But she is like very forthcoming, like telling him, at some point, all of you humans are going to make a mistake. And he's like, and then you'll kill us all. So like, he's aware of what's happening in some way.
Yeah,
but I guess
if we like seem dumb for people who have seen the show, but
probably
I have no idea what's going on with this character. I like it. It's like fun to like see like somebody who's like so aware of what's going on, at least compared to everyone else. But we still know so little.
Yeah, I mean, I think we find out that he's working with the Cylons, or just is helping them because he is like suicidal and wants humanity to die, something along those lines.
Is that it?
I assume from the beginning, like not knowing really anything, like once you realize that she's not really there, I just thought maybe this was like him, like this was like, I don't know, like a past love or something. Who
just a hallucination.
Right. She's just like a hallucination who just keeps showing up and is just kind of like pushing the story along for him.
Right.
Like she's kind of like a wise, I don't know, like all-knowing in his mind. But like, how does she know these things? Well, maybe because he really knows these things. But then who is she? Why does he know these things?
Right. So we go around.
And why does she keep talking about God?
Talks about God a lot too.
Yeah, like I wanted to know what that whole like theme is that like an ongoing theme of the whole show?
I'm guessing that's
We
at
only
least, like,
watched the pilot.
Cylon's view of.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's the Cylon's view of themselves.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Because we pretty much find out she's a Cylon, even if they don't say it explicitly. Because
Right.
she's working with one of them.
Right.
But I can see them because are they like all one entity? I mean, I guess we wouldn't know. I'm trying to think. Like, I had the issue watching this pilot. Is like I remember so little. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Like if I remember a lot about a show, I can be like, oh yeah, I remember the Cylons. They do this and this. But I'm like, Cyloms? What are Cyloms? Oh yeah, Cylons. Wait, what do they do?
John said, I guess we do need to watch the miniseries. Because clearly this woman is featured heavily. We probably get a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean,
but we are introduced to some of the pilots, and we see them like all just like nodding off. Everyone has dark circles under their eyes. They look like absolute shit.
I loved this. This is such like a nice, gritty, like imagining of a sci-fi thing.
Yeah.
Instead of like, get in the ship. It's like, oh man, all right, we gotta go. Let's go.
Yeah. Because they've done it 237 times before.
Yeah.
They've basically been up for 5 straight days.
5 straight days, yeah. And so the 2 higher up guys, commanders, generals, are discussing the plans for the next jump because they're trying different things. And so they say, what if we split up the fleet into, I think they said like 4 different groups, and then we do a bunch of jumps and we meet up at a predetermined coordinates. So they're getting ready for that to happen. When we meet the president, who's played by, who was it, Elizabeth?
Oh, shoot.
Marissa Tomei.
No.
Oddly, she's playing the character from My Cousin Vinny.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up. I can't remember. It's Mary something.
And we find out that the population of the humans on the ships has dipped below 50,000. So that was like a heavy moment for her. And they're looking for this doctor that keeps requesting to come on board that ship to talk to the president. He has something very important to say. And Gaius, the one who's imagining this woman, knows that that's bad news for him because I think he thinks he's going to be outed as a traitor. And so he says, you know, he knows the doctor, and he has a problem. Like he's trying to convince the president not to let this guy on board or figure out a way to not let them talk.
Yeah.
Vinny says the miniseries is effectively the pilot. I kind of gathered that, but it was 3 hours long and this was 44 minutes. So we went this way, Vinny.
And we're going to have to watch the whole miniseries.
Yeah. Basically, she's a Cylon, people are saying.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The president is played by Mary McDonnell.
Yes.
Of Major Crimes.
And
The Closer.
Okay.
That's how I know her. Yeah. Major Crimes is just a spin-off of The Closer.
Something else that happens.
Her fault. I mean, it's totally his fault. That is important to know, I guess.
So we also saw what happened in the miniseries. A U.S. soldier was left on a Cylon-occupied planet. Mm-hmm. And so now we meet him in this pilot, and he's running from these 2 Cylons, but he has like a trap set up. He sets it off, they blow up, and he goes up and shoots them both. And then he needs to take anti-radiation injection, because I guess whatever planet he's on is not that hospitable.
Yeah.
And as he's doing this, he sees the same blonde woman in the distance. So it's not just in this guy's head. She exists somewhere else. Right. And he like puts up his hands, and then we go to the next jump. So he's giving up to this blonde woman, and then the fleet is jumping again. This time, though, they don't all make it to the next spot. One of the civilian ships is left behind with 1,300 people, and they have no idea why. They've gone faster than light, which is insane, to a different spot in space, and they don't know what happened. Did the Cylons get them? Did they jump somewhere else? Did the ship blow up?
Can we stop for 1 second?
Sure.
Can you just wrap your mind around the fact that all of humanity is on these different ships, and they're all like flying through space, which is just so like infinite and unknown, and like you have no idea if someone you know or a loved one is on another ship, but like even if you do know, how do you ever even get to them? When do you ever see them again? Because every 33 minutes, you guys are just jumping to the next place.
Oh, right. I forgot about the 33 minutes thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
I was gonna say, Liz, we're doing that right now. We're on multiple ships flying through space.
So
it's just making my stomach hurt. Like, that's so
It
crazy.
was great. Yeah.
apparently, we use nuclear weapons against the Cylons, and that's why that planet was irradiated. Someone said that in the chat. So that's why that guy is injecting himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're getting ready.
And maybe
for the
that's why the Cylons hate them?
Oh yeah. Silenger nuke prone.
I think they probably already hated them before we
man,
nuked them, but
Okay.
so the next attack doesn't come at 33 minutes. Everyone's holding their breath. 45 minutes pass. There's still no attack.
Oh, when they were counting down like this 33 minutes, because you could tell they're trying to make it like tense. I felt tense.
Yeah, it was good.
Like, it was pretty soon in the show, but I was like, oh god.
Yeah, it was a good tension builder.
Show up? And it was only the second time they were showing up, and I was like, okay, I think we're good.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's characters that hook you, I think, but this was just like a really cool, tense setting to like just
really
be dropped into, you know?
Yeah.
So the commander calls the president, and they're moving on to condition 2, which is to let some people start to rest because no one has slept in 5 days.
Yeah.
And the Olympic carrier is the missing ship, and it shows back up at their current coordinates. And so the commander immediately is like, I don't know what's going on. Reset the clocks to 33 minutes because who the hell knows?
He's suspicious.
Yeah. He says, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but reset the clocks. And the blonde woman in the red dress, I don't know if she has a name, tells Gaius that Cylons have infiltrated the Olympic carrier and they've been tracking their ship the whole time.
Oh yeah.
And so for Gaius to survive.
God damn it.
Let someone else talk, Bill.
No, let Billy do all the heavy lifting.
So for Gaius to survive, that carrier needs to be destroyed,
or
else they're going to find out. So the carrier is trying to get the doctor on board to talk to the president. So someone's calling in, like trying to get them to dock.
It also seems like the way they're like, oh, the doctor's on the thing. It sounds like not a real person saying it. Like the way they're like really, like they just escaped this alien species or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, we're back, and this guy's got to get on the ship. Like that, because the blonde woman is like, this is your punishment for saying whatever against God, which is my theory of how they think of themselves. And she's like, you have to repent. So like instead of saying like, oh, this guy's bad, they're like, we kind of know something. Oh, what could it be? And he knows what it is, obviously.
Right.
So I like that. They're really creepy.
So they're trying to convince the president to let them on to this ship, but Gaius bursts out and it's like, listen to me. This is a trap. Just trust me. Cut off communications right now before they send a virus onto this ship or something terrible happens. And the commander's on the phone and he's like, I agree. We need to just cut off communications. And so a couple of the little fighters go out, including Katie Sackhoff, who was on, what was that terrible Night Flyers? No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
Yeah.
I
was wondering why I knew her. Okay.
And so
she looked so much younger on this.
That was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
16 years ago. So a couple fighters go out and tell the carrier to stop, but they refuse to stop. They're heading like right towards the command vessel. And 33 minutes pass and the Cylons show up again. So now everyone realizes like, shit, it's something to do with this ship. They're tracking this ship or they somehow followed it. And then the squad finds that there are nuclear weapons on board the carrier ship. And so they're ordered to destroy it. And there's like another tense moment where the commander is telling, not the commander, the leader of this little squadron is telling them to shoot the ship. And Katie Sackhoff's like, no, I'm not going to fucking do that. There's 1,300 civilians on this ship. But eventually they do.
He's like flying next to it and he says like, I don't see anyone. Do you guys? So like he's kind of not sure. Like you can tell he doesn't want to, but he's like, I don't see anyone and this is suspicious. So you're really getting this like tense feeling from all these characters. Like it's not just black or white ever. It's like
Right.
You know, are the bad guys going to show up? Are the bad guys in this ship? Should we blow it up?
Yeah.
It's a great way to start a show.
And so the
Oh,
woman. Sorry, go
I'll
ahead.
just keep going. I'll just keep going because it's right now. They're about to blow up the ship, and this was the first time. Like, there 2 times it happened. I got like emotional, and I could feel my eyes like welling a little bit because this is kind of the thing that gets me is like people being heroic. But when he's like, fire on my mark, and Katie Sackhoff's like, no, and he says mark, and his voice cracks. I don't know if that was an accident or if he just did a great job, but his voice cracks, and I'm like, oh man.
Like he's struggling with the command.
Yeah, like.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
I liked that scene. I also liked Katie Sackhoff's like reaction. Like I just thought she was really good. I liked her character from the beginning.
Yeah.
But even just in that one scene, like the way, not from Night Flyers.
Best show ever.
Oh my God. I can't believe that's the same person.
What a transition.
Right. I wonder what it feels like to be on like a great pilot and then the worst pilot we've ever watched. Anyway, like I just liked her reaction in that in that scene where she's just kind of like, come on, like she's like yelling at him, like, you've got to be kidding me, like we're not going to do this.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a good moment.
But when he does, she does. Like,
yeah.
He's gonna shoot. I'm gonna shoot.
We're getting support for her character, which I think her name is Starbuck.
Starbuck.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Born and raised in Seattle. So,
Boo.
So the human that's on the Cylon planet is woken up by the red dress woman, who's not wearing a red dress in this instance. So I should say,
no.
Blonde-haired Cylon.
Right.
And she wakes him up and she starts to make out with him because that's just like her thing. She's like a really horny Cylon. And as she gets blasted from behind. Someone shoots her in the back. And at least this iteration of her seems to be dead.
Yeah.
And he's saved by another soldier. And he's like, what are you doing here? And I'm pretty sure she's a Cylon because there was something in the previews about one of the soldiers being a Cylon. And then as they're running away, we see another version of the blonde woman with some of like the machine looking Cylons that kind of look like Terminators, watching them.
Boomer, right?
and they don't attack. They just watch them. So
no, I think that's her name.
I'm pretty sure she's a Cylon. Back at the fleet.
Yeah, whatever.
What?
No, I thought that was Boomer because this is like slightly in the past.
Yeah.
And they talk about somebody she cared about dying. So I'm assuming it's going to be that guy. Remember when she like snaps at all those people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boomer was also the dog's name in Independence Day.
Oh, cool.
Do you remember Vivica A. Fox in the tunnel? Boomer! Elizabeth doesn't remember.
Movie.
No. You just reference Independence Day like more than I think people would reference that movie. Like, you do a lot.
Yes, the other soldier is Boomer, and the blonde Cylon is Six, S-I-X. And
like
so,
the number?
No, like the other SIX.
No, like the character in Blossom.
The titular Blossom?
Damn it. And so now it has been 24 hours, and there are no Cylons. They haven't shown up. And so it appears they made the right decision by blowing up that ship and then warping out of there. But somebody asked, like, at least you made the right choice, and everyone's like still kind of struggling with it. The commander is telling the squadron leader, like, it wasn't your call. I made the decision. He's like, yeah, but I pulled the trigger. And there's an update on the count of the people on board. It drops again. Obviously now it's at like 47,973. I wrote it down. And
cool.
Something like that.
I'm sorry. It was at 47,972. And the president's assistant comes in and says, I have another update. She goes, how many did we lose this time? And he goes, actually, we gained one. There was a baby boy born on one of the ships. And so she erases the 2, puts a 3. And
Liz, tell me at least you also got teary-eyed with this scene.
I did.
This is number 2 for me.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you if that was like the time you got emotional, because because her reaction, her getting emotional I felt really powerful, because she just has to she's just like
She's in charge
losing
of
humans, you know,
the
like,
whole world, and
yeah.
Yeah.
this is a
And
tiny victory.
at one
Yeah.
point, it's clear that, like, you know, she's I don't know if she's the president of, I guess, wherever this ship came from. Because I think someone said there's 12 different planets that humanity was living on at the time of this attack. So I don't know if she's in charge of everybody or just one planet, but it's clear that, like, the commander is in charge. Like, this is a fucking war. This is a military operation, and she is going to go along with what the commander says.
He's kind of going to her for respect, it seems like. Where you know he could overrule her at any point, but he wants to keep some semblance of, you know, civilian life, maybe. Right.
Oh, Vinny says the human-looking Cylons have numbers by model, so she's model number 6, and so there's a bunch of number 6s. And so
okay, I think I had read that. But I forgot it. So now thanks, Vinny.
So that'll be cool too, as you're introduced to the different, as you find out who's actually a fucking Cylon. Yeah, so that was the pilot to 2004's Battlestar Galactica. Not the miniseries, the pilot. What did you guys think?
Liz, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first because I am like the resident hater of all sci-fi, which is why Bill thought it would be funny that we would do this event in the first place to make me watch another sci-fi show.
I think it's a problem that you were introduced to sci-fi from us, from this podcast.
I don't think that is true.
Not introduced, but we kind of shoved a lot of sci-fi on you.
You shoved a lot. I mean, how long have we been doing this podcast for?
2 years.
6
2
weeks.
years?
Something like that.
A lot more sci-fi than I ever wanted to watch. I've been watching that and fantasy. A little, I don't hate fantasy, but like it's been a little too much. But anyway, I liked it. I thought it was just standalone, a great show. I didn't think it needed to, like, yes, clearly the genre is sci-fi and they're flying through space, but the normal things that bothered me about sci-fi did not bother me in this. It felt very real. It felt like they did really good world building and that I was invested in what was going on with these characters and what was going on with their society and humanity and like these struggles. It didn't feel like shoved down your throat like aliens, robots, cold metal stuff that I just hate.
Yeah.
Visually, it was kind of that.
Yeah, I was thinking, is that?
No, it was.
It played so more realistic.
Yeah, it was that, but it wasn't. It felt more natural in a way, and I felt like, and maybe because there was a mini series beforehand with these characters where they are already established and their stories are established and they're kind of like picking up where they left off. There wasn't so much, I don't know. I felt like they had like a tricky thing to do. They had to catch all of us up to speed that didn't see it.
Quick correction from the chat. There's no aliens in this series.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry.
It's cybernetic.
I was speaking in like general like sci-fi thing, like what I don't like about sci-fi.
Okay,
so wait, what
okay.
And I don't want to offend anybody. It's just not my preference. But I really did like this show.
Let me correct the chat real quick. Technically, if we're on 12 different planets, I'm pretty sure there's some aliens.
All right. What an
I
interesting philosophical discussion we could have about what constitutes an alien.
True.
I just felt like the acting and everything already being established really lent itself to like having like getting really, I don't know, like deeper into the characters and what was going on. And you're not worried so much about introducing each character. The setup was just different, even though they still did have to introduce the characters to the people who did not watch the miniseries.
Oops.
But somehow they did it, and it didn't feel forced. And once I mean, again, like Casey said too, the beginning, you're kind of like, what is going on? I'm really lost. And then all of a sudden you knew exactly what was going on, and it was very tense. And every 33 minutes, you're like right there with them, like worried if they're going to like make the jump. And so I liked it. I thought they did a good job.
Yeah. I mean, that's more or less what I was going to say about the tone of the show. is, usually if you have a fast-paced pilot like that, it's hard to get me hooked. Like I want to connect with the characters first. But you got glimpses into the characters. I mean, you got glimpses into Starbuck, Katie Sackhoff's character. You got glimpses into the commander and the president. Not anything deep, just like very brief. You kind of knew where they were at in this tense situation. But yeah, this situation they dropped you in was so well done. That's what like really pulled you in. Like, man, because you start to imagine it, like, and you see it on all their faces. All of them have dark silver under their eyes. She's like nodding off at one point. There's one scene in like the command room as they're all getting ready, this squadron to go out again, and they're all just like slumped over in their chairs. They're all just leaning on their hands. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
it was great.
So good.
I think they did a really good job of character building in those little like in betweens while they're just like waiting for the next jump of like. And they didn't do it all at once because they're taking you through like multiple jumps in this episode. There's like a little like fight between like Katie Sackhoff's character and her. I don't know what would her boss, like whoever she takes her orders from.
Yeah, the squadron leader.
Yeah. Apollo.
And they're having like a little thing about like her taking her medication, and there's some little like fight, and then they start like laughing. Yeah, that was a great scene. And then I guess the commander at one point like starts to eat ramen, and then he's like, "Can I eat this?" He's like just starts eating the other guy's dinner like off of his plate.
He's like, "Were you gonna eat the rest of that?"
Yeah.
He's like, "No,
not now," or something.
It's just
there's like little glimpses of their personalities, but like being thrust in this situation, you both like can tell more about them just because like this guy's eating ramen in the middle of this war, and these people are having their cute little quibble, but they're also like fighting for their lives. So you both can understand them better and like empathize with them. It just makes it so much better to like learn about a character like that way than like, this is pilot number 1. He likes goldfish and whatever.
Right.
The cracker or the fish?
I think I meant the cracker, but I don't know if it'd be in this universe.
Are you eating goldfish right now, Casey? Are you just naming things in the room?
No.
So Elizabeth, you said that this was good as a standalone. Do you mean that as like a standalone episode of like a little movie? Because like we're watching the pilot to a show.
I mean, more I meant like separate from its genre. I just thought it was a good show. So like I'm not gonna like qualify saying it like, oh, this is good for sci-fi. I just thought this was a good show. Like I enjoyed watching it.
As a pilot too.
As a pilot too, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Do you think you'll continue to watch Battlestar Galactica?
Go.
What?
So I guess I won't go.
I forgot you were even on this podcast.
Shut up.
I have notes, man. I took.
Go ahead, Keith. Go ahead. You were just talking with us at the same time. So
trivial. Now it seems like
you texted me 45 minutes ago. Which version am I watching?
Yeah. And then
all right. What did you think, Casey?
Yeah, it was fine. No,
just ignore Bill. I'm hosting this now.
No, I really liked it. I mirror a lot of what you guys said about like them being tired. Like that was one of my favorite things. It's like some of them just looked like they were gonna slip out of their chairs and stuff. And even like the spaceships, like the civilian spaceship looked fine. Like the military like offices and stuff, they look kind of grimy. Like if you were to like flip this on and you didn't know what it was, and you were to like kind of see one scene, you could kind of almost say like, oh, is this like a war movie? As in like, are they on a battleship or like a submarine or something? Because even just the way they shot it, it looks so indicative of like that style of like close quarters and like very similar types of like backgrounds and stuff. And then look, he's got a spaceship on his thing, so it must be in space. But I thought that was really cool. Like it was more like than just like a sci-fi war. It was like war, but it just happens to be in space.
Yeah,
so I thought that was really cool and a good way to like show that war. And this, I was kind of expecting Billy to make this point too, but this felt like a better version of The Last Jedi, where they're like being chased through space.
That's a low bar.
I know, but how much better would The Last Jedi have been if like everyone was like this tired and this tense, and you know, you're just barely escaping with your life instead of like, you know, flying out and making like fart jokes or whatever they did. You know, not that I hated the movie, but like this just felt so similar. Like the two scenarios were like almost the same.
This is coming from the #1 Babu Frick fan.
Oh, hey! Who doesn't love Babu Frick, man? But yeah, I thought that was like a really cool, like, oh, it made me immediately think of it. So yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, this is labeled like a military sci-fi drama, so that is a big part of it. And you know, John says the commander and the president, their dynamic is a big part of the show, and oftentimes they both have some legitimacy and they're both kind of right, and you see both of their perspectives, but they're still opposed, and they have to figure out which way to go.
Yeah.
So that kind of excites me because I like their dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts, Case?
Not really. Just like I have a lot of like little notes about like I like, you know, the use of close-ups really establishes their situation and stuff like that. But pretty much I just enjoyed it.
You know, this was done in 2004. And so some of the graphics and the cinematography I felt were a little bit dated.
Yeah.
Because in 2004, Sci-Fi was using graphics from like 98.
Yeah, this was like right at the this is like right around like Star Wars prequel time.
Yeah, yeah.
Where, like CGI was not good yet, but they still wanted to use it because they had it.
Right.
Instead of using more practical.
I think the prequels were even way before this, but that's what it felt like. Like it was being made in the 90s.
Well, I mean, was it where did this show air? Like, was it a big show or was this like a sci-fi? Like, I'm assuming it didn't have like a huge budget.
It probably didn't.
It wasn't
have a
like
budget.
HBO.
Right, right.
You know,
yeah, it was on the Sci-Fi channel before they changed the name to
Sci-Fi, right?
SYFY. So yeah, their budget probably wasn't big. You know, it's just weird looking back because this is like a 4-season show that is like has such a huge following now.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, like the Cylon design, I didn't feel like was that inventive. You know, it looked like generic robot kind of thing. The human versions of the cyborgs seems really, really interesting. Not that you have to design those, but like that aspect of the cybernetic thing.
Wait, did I miss another Cylon?
Yeah, Vinny says prequels were 99 to 05, so it falls right at the tail end of the prequels.
One of the things I liked about it too was like the wardrobe. I bring this up a lot in shows we watch, but like the wardrobe, I think helps set the tone or a tone of the show. And here it wasn't like trying too hard. It was just like whatever time this was filmed in was like the time period of the clothes they were wearing.
Yeah.
And like
even the space jumpsuits didn't have like giant metal shoulder pads or something. It was just like
right.
It was like a onesie basically with like their little logo, which is not like super unique, but it helps.
It just felt realistic.
Yeah.
It just felt much more real.
I agree.
I might watch this. Like more than 50% I'm gonna watch this. Like honestly, might watch an episode tonight. I really liked it.
I might want to watch it too. Because here's the thing. If anyone has been like watching or listening to our podcast, you know that I don't like sci-fi and I have no interest in watching it. And the challenge has been to like find a good sci-fi show that Elizabeth is gonna like, or at least like you guys tease me about that. This might be it. Maybe this has like a good balance of it being sci-fi because of the setting and you know what's going on, but maybe it's just realistic enough for me. Who knows? I thought it was a great pilot, so that's making me say that. I might watch another episode or two and decide, no, this is too sci-fi for me, and I don't care anymore. But I'm just saying, I'm willing to watch it.
Cool.
Yeah, it might get like more sci-fi as it goes on, but I mean, I'd be fine with that. But
maybe by then I'm going to care about the characters so much.
Yeah, maybe.
which I feel like I already do. Like I'm intrigued and interested.
I think I learned more of their names in this episode that we're doing than I did the actual pilot. But like I knew their characters.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
I'm learning their names. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I got most of the names from people in the chat. So,
Yeah, me too.
so yeah, I'm intrigued by the whole Cylon thing, like not knowing who's who, like who's a real person, who's a Cylon in disguise, who's a sleeper cell. They don't even know they're a Cylon yet. That is what made the first season of Westworld so special, I think. And I've watched all 3 seasons of that show, and it's taken like a step down each season. I think the first season was so good because there were so many cool twists, and just like through cultural osmosis, I know a lot of people that have played the board game Battlestar Galactica based on this version of the series, and it's like a hidden traitor game. So you're all moving around these ships as humans, but some of you are Cylons, and the job of the good team is to figure out who the Cylons are.
Like Avalon?
Like Avalon, like a social deduction game. And that concept always intrigues me. So to see it...
One Night Ultimate Werewolf?
Well, now you're kind of getting into like the basic stuff.
Like Dead of Winter?
Yes, like Dead of Winter. So to see that play out in a well-done, tense show has me excited. Yeah. I've also just heard so many people whose opinions I trust say what a good show this is.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to say is we know so many people like that are just like super fans of the show. And so, you know, that doesn't mean that there aren't people who aren't super fans of really dumb shows, but I kind of like trust those people, you know?
Oh, like, and Vinny, who I used to play board games with before he moved away like a jerk, says in the game you can be like a sleeper cell. You won't even know at the beginning of the game that you are a Cylon, and then you'll find out later. Like, oh shit, actually I'm against everybody else.
Are you gonna get this game?
If I watch this show and I become obsessed with it, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Also,
God.
Rick says he was a fan of the 78 version of Battlestar Galactica. And so when this version came out, he's like, you know, pretty skeptical of it and ended up loving it. So more praise for this series.
So I'm interested in the 78 version of it. Is it the same? Like, is this based off of that, or was the miniseries based off of that? And in the 70s, is it like very cheesy?
I haven't watched any clips from the 70s one. I've only seen
curious.
images. Yeah, so someone can chime in the chat about the 70s one. At least Rick enjoyed it.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I would like to give it a shot. I think if we're going to keep watching, I'll probably go back and watch the miniseries at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm hearing apparently we've screwed up, so I think I'm going to watch it, and I might as well watch the miniseries.
Hey, the internet told me you don't need to watch the miniseries, just watch this pilot. But a lot of people are saying just watch the miniseries. So
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't have to watch the miniseries, but if I'm gonna watch it, I might as well watch the miniseries too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rick says the miniseries
just to get all the information.
Yeah. Oh, he says the original series is cheesy as fuck.
Oh, really? Is it as good? Is it good in it, like cheesy in a good way? And if so, is it as good as Lost in Space pilot? That of the original Lost in Space that we watched.
It can't possibly
be anything as good.
No. I'm willing to give it a chance because even if it's like a 10th as good.
So it seems like we're all kind of on board for trying to continue to watch this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
This is like the best show I've seen in a while.
This is getting my stamp of approval.
Whoa. So that's a good transition.
Mine too.
That's a good transition because Elizabeth doesn't like sci-fi, and she liked this. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the sci-fi genre. It's kind of like its own subset of all the other TV genres. It's hard for some people to get into. Elizabeth, you're one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to just talk about why do we think that is, and then maybe we can give some recommendations, or people in the chat can give some recommendations on like modern sci-fi shows.
Would you say
I mentioned Westworld.
Genre?
Hmm?
Would you say it's like the hardest genre? I can't think of a genre that would be like trickier for someone to get into. Not that it's bad. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think between science and fantasy, And I think there's some kind of connection. Maybe it's, you're watching a show, you have to suspend your disbelief to some extent, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sci-fi and fantasy, I feel like forces you to suspend it the furthest, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're watching a show about 6 doofuses living in Manhattan. Like, you can like kind of relate to that. You can picture it happening. A bunch of ships on a fleet fleeing from aliens every 33 minutes is not something that, like, oh yeah, I can put myself in that situation.
I mean, that's the hardest thing I have is like nothing about sci-fi or a lot of the sci-fi I've watched seems at all tangible to me. And it's not, at least for me, and I know for some people might feel the exact opposite, that's not an escape for me. Like I have to work too hard to like relax or imagine what's going on. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it does, because even like with fantasy, a lot of fantasy stuff is, there's scarier elements to it, but for sci-fi, it seems like the main thing is, oh man, this shit's scary. You know what I mean? Like something scary is always happening. Even not scary, but like if you were in the situation, it'd be more frightening than if you were, riding a horse with a wizard. Both genres I like.
Yeah, Vinny says horror is another genre that's tricky to get into.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of really fucking bad horror is the problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, same with sci-fi. There's also some like really good. I like more horror than I like sci-fi, I think, but there's a lot of bad horror.
Yeah.
Sci-fi's got like a little hint of horror.
Yeah.
I think also a lot of it just being like in space.
Yeah.
Is like something that makes me nervous anyway.
Yeah.
And like, I know Bill laughs at me sometimes when I talk about this, but it's like, I can't picture, like, I don't know if it just gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
Or I can't wrap my head around it. Like, they can't put their feet on the ground. That's like.
Is that the biggest fear you have?
Can you imagine?
I don't think so. Like, not feeling grounded at all. There's no. Yeah, like I don't know.
Out into the void.
Sometimes like just looking at a scene of a ship flying through space makes me feel really nervous.
You feel like
and so
lost.
Yes, it's too vast. Yeah. There's way too much unknown, and I just don't like that. And like it's like sometimes it's upsetting. And there was a movie we went to that actually I thought was. I did enjoy. I think maybe it was Interstellar.
Mm-hmm. With Matthew McConaughey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, is that the one where there's like that big ocean planet and there's just like that big wave?
Yes.
I wanted to throw up. I did.
Yeah.
Like the thought of like the entire planet is a big fucking wave. Like what? What? I don't like that.
Yeah.
So it makes me feel anxious. It makes me feel nervous. And that's part of it too.
What about like, because now all the sci-fi we see, obviously this is TV shows, so we're only going to see sci-fi shows from the last couple decades. So everything we're seeing is science fiction, so it's in the future. We kind of already have this planet, all good and done. So obviously the next thing is space. But what about like science fiction from like 100 years ago? Like, would you be interested in like H.G. Wells like stories where it's like The Invisible Man or The Island of Dr. Moreau? That's also sci-fi. It just takes place in a different era.
I mean, maybe.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Westworld. That's not in space. That's on Earth.
Yeah.
It's totally grounded on this planet in like a not so distant future, probably.
True.
I think that would be easier for me to digest.
I think so too. I think you would really like it, actually.
Yeah.
Rick says there's a lot of good sci-fi, but too many shows and movies use the fantastical elements as like an excuse to be really stupid, like J.J. Abrams stuff.
Yeah.
Like just push it way too far to just be completely sensational.
Yeah, whereas like this, it just felt like a story that happened to be in space instead of a space story.
Right. Oh, and Firefly.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Firefly. Casey, you did too?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Firefly was fun and campy, and there's only one season.
That's like the same thing. they kind of asked for that one at the end there. But that's the same thing where it's obviously everyone knows this isn't a new perspective, but it's like a Western. So it could be, out in the open West, but it's just a little more fun to have in space.
Right. Which is why everyone loves The Mandalorian, apparently.
Yeah, I heard that.
It's like a Western.
Yeah.
Casey and I rip on The Mandalorian, and we both watch the fucking whole thing.
Oh yeah, I forgot
I
about
can't
that.
believe after listening to our episode on that you both watched it.
Well,
you guys hated it so much.
I watched the first episode, complained about it on the pilot, watched 2 more, then complained about it with Kelly and said I wouldn't watch anymore, and then watched the rest.
Yeah.
Did Kelly watch the rest too?
I don't think so. I don't think she did, but maybe she did. So there is a trailer that just came out for Foundation on Apple TV Plus, which is a new sci-fi show based on the Isaac Asimov novels from I don't know, he fucking wrote them from the 50s to the 90s. There's so many of them, but it's the seminal fucking sci-fi fiction. And it stars Jared Harris, who I just have a soft spot for.
Who's Jared Harris?
He's been in every show we've watched, right?
Yeah, Mad Men, Chernobyl.
That must be why I don't remember him.
No, he was in
Yes.
what's the other one we watched on the ship?
The Terror.
The Terror.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He was in The Terror.
Yeah.
He was also in that fantasy show with the blonde guy.
Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, the blonde guy from Lord of the Rings. But yeah, I think visuals is a big issue with people too. It's just hard, you see aliens or space or whatever. The visuals on this preview look so fucking cool. Absolutely top of the line. I am very excited for it. The cinematography. What's that case?
What's it called again?
Foundation. Yeah, watch the trailer. The cinematography looks incredible. It doesn't come out until next year, so I don't know why we're talking about it, but.
Oh, well, cross that out.
Yeah, and Rick said at least the beginning of Foundation is based on the prequel books, which were in the 80s. But okay. I assume if it does well, they'll start from there and then go back and re-implement it.
Cool.
Yeah, so let's see what else we have. A couple people mentioned some shows. The Expanse, which I've heard good things about, but I've never watched. Babylon 5, which is a little bit older. We watched a lot of shows, but it's not that one.
Yeah, we did watch a lot of the sci-fi shows.
Oh, and the 78 Battlestar is much better than season 1 of Lost in Space.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't know how that's possible. That pilot was so good.
Yeah, we liked the pilot because it was really shitty.
Yeah.
So
For anyone listening, go back and watch the pilot to Lost in Space from the 60s. There's a scene of the dad floating outside the ship, and it's you couldn't even act that cheesy if you wanted to. Yeah, just dancing, floating in space. It's fantastic. It's really good bad.
And he's being held on by some dryer vent tube.
That's absolutely what they
basically what the entire set was made out of.
Oh my god.
Well, the set was
So
cardboard
good.
boxes with little stickers on it.
Yeah. If you like corny stuff, this is a show to watch.
Yeah.
Get some people to watch it and then talk about it when you're done.
Yeah. This has nothing to do with sci-fi. This has nothing to do with sci-fi, but last week we reviewed 911 Lone Star. And it's one of the all-time greatest cold opens I've ever seen.
So good.
And we've watched hundreds of shitty pilots, mostly shitty pilots for this podcast. Within a 3-minute span, a bumbling security guard lights his leftover microwave burrito on fire in the microwave, lights the entire factory complex on fire. It's a gigantic raging inferno, and it explodes because it's filled with fertilizer, like a fucking nuclear bomb. There are firefighters there who, once they get the hose attached, it starts spraying water, and they all slow motion cheer. It's
You're spoiling it for Casey. He needs to watch it.
Is it
incredible.
Comedy?
Someone's hashtag
Casey,
bomb.
I said on our episode, I was I really wish that Casey was on this one with us because I just feel like we would have had so much fun. You would have enjoyed this pilot so much. It's cheesy in the worst and best way. It was so bad, and it was exactly what I needed to watch. It was
Yeah.
perfect.
I gotta go for another a cheesy TV show. I haven't watched one
This
in like forever.
That's it.
Dude,
That's the one. Go do it.
no.
Rob Lowe is in it. Oh my god, so
Oh
good.
no.
Yeah, people are saying Babylon 5 graphics like don't really hold up, which I think it's the case. Things move so fast
Mm-hmm.
in that world. Like things from even 10 years ago seem outdated.
Yeah.
So going back to watch sci-fi where you like have to suspend your disbelief so far, like the visuals really help with that. And so if they look cheesy, or the sets are cheesy, or the costumes, or the CGI.
That's why even in this, like in Battlestar Galactica, even though like the CGI was cheesy, it was mostly in a world that was grounded in reality. So like the practical sets look good. So then you'd have like a little cheesy thing. You're like, okay, whatever. The Cylons look goofy. It's fine.
Right. Yeah, that's why I don't think I'll be bothered by it that much because, you know, the Cylon design, like the CGI is not great. It's pretty dated at this point, but it feels like it's going to be more about the human interactions and the grittiness of being in war in fucking space. So I think it'll be all right.
Yeah.
All right. What do you guys think? Anything else to talk about? We've been on for almost an hour.
No, I don't think so.
Thank you so much to everyone that was active in the chat. We had some good discussions going on, good suggestions.
Thanks for joining us. More about the show we watched.
For anyone listening that actually felt like they gleaned anything about the show Battlestar Galactica, you can thank people in our chat because we didn't know what we were talking about. Again, if you want to subscribe to our podcast, which you should go to Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play Podcasts. Subscribe to the show, Trial by Pilot, leave a review, tell your friends. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Trial by Pilot. And Elizabeth, you don't have to do your thing because
we didn't play our theme music.
There's no theme song.
But I still really do appreciate the beats.
Oh, hold on. We have a question before we leave.
Okay.
Vinny asks, who have you met that is probably a Cylon?
Oh, man.
Okay, I have a follow-up question. What is a good indicator of that?
Yeah, because we haven't seen much.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Boomer the soldier on that planet, but
and she's like the last person you would have thought.
We saw her for a couple seconds. Well, I think that's the idea: is who's the last person you would think?
Okay.
Me.
All right.
No, I would think you were.
What?
I mean,
I want to name some politicians and other people, but I won't.
Is it like extra robotic? Is that
Vinny says just make wild speculations. It doesn't even matter.
I'm like really thinking about it. I'm like going through my coworkers.
Yeah, me too.
Apparently, if they're having sex and their spine starts to glow, that's a clear indicator.
Oh, well, I guess hold on.
Good thing we only do it with the lights on.
One way to see it in the dark.
Somebody else says, John says twins or triplets, probably Cylons.
Okay.
Just easy to reproduce, make more of them. People are still logging in to watch the live stream, which seems weird to me, but welcome for the very end.
Yeah.
Please also, you can email us at trialbypilot@gmail.com if you have suggestions on shows for us to watch. There's not a lot of TV being made right now, in case you guys didn't know. There's a couple new things coming out, but not a whole lot. And there probably won't be this fall except for some animated series.
Well, then we'd really like some suggestions of your favorite oldies but goodies. We were watching Monk today, and I was like, maybe we should do the pilot to Monk.
Oh, man.
I love that show.
Monk's great.
Monk's great.
Okay.
Casey, we started a rewatch of Community as well.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. How good is it?
It's fantastic.
It's so good. It's still so good.
And the later seasons are the best.
Are they?
No, they're
well, they do have some of the best episodes. There are a couple good ones I like. I'm just excited to get to the Law and Order episode.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever rewatched a series in its entirety. Is that strange?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Not even I mean, you've probably seen all of
What about Seinfeld?
Futurama and Seinfeld multiple times.
Yes, I've certainly seen Futurama and Seinfeld multiple times, but never consecutively. Like I've never like watched from episode 1 to episode whatever of Seinfeld.
It's just easy to do that on Netflix now, and we've watched the other shows, when they're just like on syndication.
Yeah, but I've never done it. That's weird.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're very special.
You're a unique little snowflake.
So we've already got some suggestions: Justified, Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. And yes, I will play Battlestar Galactica, the game.
Okay, good.
All of the Star Trek pilots. Someone said.
Oh man, we could do that for like a whole like when is like Star Trek's like anniversary month? We could just knock out like 2 months straight of Star Trek pilots. That would be fun.
That sounds like a different podcast for you guys.
I always like the idea of doing like big series or something.
Our network has enough Star Trek podcasts. They would turn down any new suggestions.
Doesn't your mom like Star Trek?
Not that I know of.
No. I don't think
Really?
so.
I really thought that she did.
Are you thinking of Charmed?
No, I'm not thinking of Charmed.
You must be thinking of Charmed.
No, I thought your mom was like Star Trek. I don't know why I think that. I'm gonna
Are you
ask
thinking
her.
of the Dallas Cowboys football team? Also, apparently, multiple people have said September is the month to do Star Trek. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
I'm sure someone will tell us in a second.
Yeah, what is it about September?
Maybe that was the premiere month, or it's just known as like Star Trek month, where like big announcements get made.
Cool.
Maybe.
I see we do a marathon of all of the Star Trek pilots in a row and then record like 4 hours.
Oh God.
How come you never want to do like the big extravaganzas I want to do?
Hey, let's do it. Yeah.
Cool.
Next year, 2021 will be the 55th anniversary of Star Trek in September. And that's when the show started. So maybe we'll do it next September, and we'll do a whole month of fucking Star Trek. So you have a year to prepare.
Just do one.
Yeah.
Why a whole month?
Yeah, that was the premiere in September 1966. All right. Have we dragged this on long enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. Casey, Elizabeth, any parting words?
Yeah. Follow me. I do. I just started a letterbox because I realized I haven't been watching enough movies. So follow me at Casey_Lynch if you want reviews on the movies I watch. I'm going to try to watch 30 a month. I bet I could do it for the next few months. Just follow me. Give me a reason to watch movies and write reviews.
All my stuff is private, but
don't try to follow me because you won't be able to.
Don't try to follow me.
Just try.
And I don't know. I guess maybe we could work on arresting the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. That could be good. And that's all I have to say. Bye.
Goodbye.